The alarm clock didn't ring, it whispered. At first, Clara thought she was dreaming, but the voice was unmistakable. "Wake up, Clara. Today is the day you change everything." Clara Bennett, a 32-year-old graphic designer, lived a life of quiet monotony. Her days were a blur of client meetings, rushed coffee breaks, and nights spent staring at her phone, numbing herself with endless scrolling. Once, she had dreamed of being an artist, but those dreams had faded under the weight of practicality and self-doubt. The whispering alarm was the first sign that something was different. When she stumbled into her tiny kitchen, she found a single red feather on the counter. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, its edges shimmered faintly, as if lit from within. When she tried to throw it away, it reappeared in her hand. The voice from the alarm echoed in her mind, "One simple morning habit can change your life." Clara's initial reaction was a mix of confusion and irritation. She didn't have time for this. She had a client meeting in 2 hours, and her portfolio was far from ready. But the feather wouldn't leave her alone, and neither would the voice. By the end of the section, Clara reluctantly decided to follow the voice's instructions: draw something. Anything. She picked up a pencil and began to sketch a simple, shaky line on a blank sheet of paper. As she did, the feather glowed faintly, and the room seemed to hum with energy. The line she drew began to move, curling and twisting into the shape of a bird. It flapped its wings once, twice, and then flew off the page, disappearing into the air. Clara stared at the empty space where the bird had been, her heart pounding. "What just happened?" she whispered. The bird returned. Clara was in the middle of a client meeting when it flew through the window, landing on her desk. Her client, a stern woman named Mrs. Hargrove, didn't seem to notice it. But Clara did. The bird tilted its head, its eyes glowing like embers, and dropped a tiny scroll at her feet. The scroll contained a single word: remember. Clara's mind raced. Remember what? Her childhood? Her dreams? The bird vanished before she could ask, leaving her with more questions than answers. That night, Clara dug out an old sketchbook from her closet. It was filled with drawings from her childhood, fantastical landscapes, mythical creatures, and stories she had made up. As she flipped through the pages, she felt a pang of nostalgia. She had once been so full of imagination, so unafraid to create. What had happened to that girl? The next morning, the voice returned. "Create something true," it said. Clara hesitated, then picked up her paints. She began to recreate one of her childhood drawings, a tree with golden leaves and roots that stretched deep into the earth. As she painted, the feather glowed brighter, and the tree seemed to come alive on the canvas. When she finished, the room filled with the scent of earth and the sound of rustling leaves. But the magic came with challenges. Clara's obsession with her morning ritual began to affect her work. She missed deadlines, forgot meetings, and grew distant from her friends. Her boss, Mr. Thompson, called her into his office. "Clara, you're one of our best designers," he said. "But lately, you've been off. Is everything okay?" Clara forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just tired." By the end of the section, Clara discovered that the feather's magic had a limit. It only worked if she created something true to herself. When she tried to force a design for a client, the feather remained lifeless. The section ended with a cliffhanger. Clara found an old photograph tucked into her sketchbook. It was a picture of her as a child, standing next to her grandmother, who had been an artist. Her grandmother had passed away when Clara was 10, but she remembered her words: "Creativity is the soul's way of speaking. Don't ever silence it." The feather turned to ash in her hands. Clara gasped, staring at the blackened remnants. The voice was silent for the first time in weeks. Clara's journey took a dark turn. Without the feather's magic, she felt lost and empty. She tried to recreate the ritual, but nothing worked. Desperate, she reached out to Mia, her best friend since college. Over cups of tea in Mia's cozy apartment, Clara finally confessed everything. To her surprise, Mia didn't laugh or call her crazy. Instead, she said, "Maybe the magic wasn't in the feather. Maybe it was in you." Mia's words struck a chord. Clara began to confront the reasons she had abandoned her dreams. She remembered the criticism from her art teacher, who had told her she wasn't good enough. She remembered the pressure from her parents to pursue a stable career. And she remembered the fear of failure that had haunted her ever since. In a moment of vulnerability, Clara decided to paint her truth. She stayed up all night, creating a mural on her apartment wall, a vivid, chaotic, beautiful representation of her fears, hopes, and dreams. As she put the final brushstroke on the canvas, the feather reappeared, glowing brighter than ever. The section ended with Clara standing in front of the mural, the voice whispering, "Now you're ready." The mural came alive, not just in her apartment but in the world outside. The streets filled with color, the sky shimmered with light, and people stopped to stare in awe. Clara's creation had sparked a wave of inspiration. Strangers began to create, painting, singing, writing, building. The city transformed into a living canvas, and Clara found herself at the center of it all. But with the newfound attention came a choice. Would she embrace her role as a catalyst for change, or would she retreat back into the safety of her old life? In the climactic moment, Clara stood before a crowd of people, holding the feather. "This isn't about me," she said. "It's about all of us. We've forgotten how to create and how to dream. But it's not too late to start again." She let the feather go, watching as it soared into the sky, dissolving into a shower of light. The magic was no longer confined to her, it belonged to everyone. The story ended with Clara sitting on her balcony at dawn, a blank canvas in front of her. She picked up a brush and began to paint, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The voice was gone, but its message remained: one simple morning habit can change your life. As the sun rose, Clara smiled. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, she felt alive. And that, she realized, was the greatest magic of all.